I know we're in Prospect Park, but where exactly are we in Prospect Park?
We are by Bartell Pritchard Square. This is very close to my home in Kensington. And as such, this was the backyard that I grew up with.
So Prospect Park covers like 3 council districts. What's the most special part of this park in your district?
So, truthfully, I actually represent the entire park. There are entrances that my colleagues can say they represent.
I see.
Yes. Might be controversial, it's a hot take. I do represent the entire park.
That is controversial. What is your favorite way to spend an afternoon in Prospect Park?
Ooh, I love cycling. I also learned how to ride after getting lupus. I had lost mobility and I needed to learn how to walk and cycle again. And this is the best place to cycle.
Well, speaking of lupus, today begins Lupus Awareness Month. What does that mean to New York City?
So I'm proud to have passed a resolution calling this month Lupus Awareness Month in New York City. And it's been really wonderful to be able to talk more about autoimmune diseases, invisible diseases, and the fact that you have a legislator who is impacted by a medical issue that is ongoing, degenerative, while legislating. And our city's hospital system is complex. It is hard to navigate. There is limited resources for people with barriers in English. And so the fight for me has been around transit accessibility, language access, and so much more as a result.
I hear you were diagnosed with lupus at 17 years old. What does having this month recognized mean to that little girl?
It feels so powerful. I would have never imagined. At 17, I was very lost and confused. I didn't know if I could continue senior year in high school. I had dreamt about leaving the city for college. That didn't happen, but I grew more comfortable with my community. And so I feel really happy that now when a 17-year-old or younger or even older look for support, lupus support, they know that they have a voice in the city council.
So you talk about transit accessibility and subway accessibility. Which stations in your district, stations, do you find the most accessible?
That's a really great question. So I first want to just take some credit for the 7th Avenue FG station, which when I was a staffer in my predecessor's office, we funded through participatory budgeting. It was the single most voted project on that ballot. And over the years, after I got elected, I oversaw the completion of this elevator and it has made a huge difference. The neighborhood where I grew up in, Avenue C and McDonald, the Church Avenue elevator has also been transformative. On Smith 9th, we've got escalators. But, truthfully, even with these accommodations, our transit is still very inaccessible.
So that leads me to my next question. Which stations are in need of improvement on the accessibility level?
So all of them. The 7th Avenue FG station elevator exists, but as you're getting out of the station, it is hard to find the elevator that takes you outside. So we've been working with constituents to get that fixed. But really, all of the stations need improvement on accessibility. We need every station to have elevator access, escalators, or just other opportunities to be able to move around the station, especially in those stations that have several train lines.
Accessibility and signage, both an issue.
It's certainly a part of it. Signage is certainly a part of the issue. But also it's the disinvestments. We have seen the disinvestments in our public transit system year after year after year. It's why I support, this is an unpopular take, I support congestion pricing. We need the money to go towards improving our stations. We need the investments because right now, the way in which the MTA is installing elevators is that it's every other station is receiving that commitment. And that takes years, it's millions of dollars. It is not simple. And so we need greater investments for the city, and congestion pricing is one of the ways.
So pivoting, you are the co-chair of the Task Force to Combat Hate. And with all the haters in New York City, what's the biggest obstacle to ridding the city of hate?
Ooh. If I'm being really honest, the biggest obstacle is we don't give each other grace. If you did something and you were held accountable for it, I believe that you should have a second chance. That is not how you should live your entire life. Right now, our politics is so divisive, and the right wing thrives off of that. The right wing thrives off of that. And as a progressive in the city council, with the co-chairship in the task force, I really believe that we need to get people more engaged and talking to one another, which is why I support restorative justice programs in our schools. I will say that young people are doing a much better job talking to one another about conflict. They have incredible opportunities for conflict mediation, and this is it's a program that I want to make sure gets funded. But we need the same thing for adults.
You introduced and passed the first ever Immigrant Workers Bill of Rights. What does that legislation mean now in the light of today's federal administration?
So the Immigrant Workers Bill of Rights went into effect after June 2024, and it lays out all of the labor protections that exist for every single worker in our city, according to city, state, and federal law. And it covers what to do if you were a victim of wage theft, how to ensure that you receive overtime pay, how to make sure that your workplace is safe and protected, and so much more. And that is absolutely essential when we're seeing immigrants deported, and we as a city are a sanctuary city, which means everyone in our city has an opportunity for democracy.
Composting is one of your lead initiatives.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
So tell me, how hard has it been to implement composting? It's like a new way of thinking for some people.
Composting is a new way of thinking for some people, and as was recycling. It took over 20 years for New Yorkers to get used to recycling. That is what we're going to experience with composting. So I know that the start of the program would be very rocky, which is why I'm in close observation mode. As the sanitation hearings come up, I'm going to make sure that I inform them that we need more investments in community outreach, that the outreach needs to happen in the languages we speak and more. This program is not about fines.
You also have like rain barrel recycling, paper shredding, and e-recycling events, right? Which one gets the longest lines? Like, which one is like the most popular?
Our sanitation events are very popular, and a flagship of our office's work. The rain barrels go very quickly. We've distributed 100 each year. E-recycling is a great opportunity for our community. I haven't seen this much excitement out on the streets to be able to recycle your electronics. Shredding is probably at the top of the list. It wins best event. of any council member. It's a lovely event.
You're so open and proud of your Muslim faith, and at the same time, a clear and vocal advocate for queer and trans rights. How do both coexist for you?
Well, I believe that God loves all of us. And I don't follow any religion that says that some people are undignified, that some people are bad. And over the years, I've emulated the qualities of our prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, who really cared for people, who ensured that everyone felt safe, that everyone felt included.
You introduced and passed the first ever Immigrant Workers' Bill of Rights. What does that legislation mean to New York City and immigrants in the wake of today's federal administration?
So it's actually the Workers' Bill of Rights, and it is meant to ensure that every New Yorker, irrespective of their legal status, have rights and protections in New York City, including the ability to file a claim if they've been a victim of wage theft, that they have the right to overtime pay, that they can seek recourse if their rights are violated, that they can join a union, and much, much more. And it covers city, state, and federal labor protections. This is important because many immigrants, specifically right now, are feeling fear and anxiety that their employer or someone else who's working with them may call ICE on them and have them detained and removed from the city and separated from their family. We don't want that. We want to make sure that everybody knows you actually can't do that. That is not legal.
Similarly, reproductive rights and your support of domestic violence survivors has been part of your platform. Where does your courage to stand up for such progressive values come from?
I would say that my diagnosis with lupus at 17 really made me angry, and I, at that time, knew no one who had lupus my age. I knew no protagonist in any stories or movies with disabilities, or disabilities were villains. And I started writing and seeing the injustices as not just I'm being treated unfairly or that services are difficult for me to get, but so many people are experiencing abandonment in our city. For the work I've been doing around addressing domestic violence, one case in specific inspired my run for office. There was a young woman who was forced into marriage, and one day she decided she's not going back home. And it was after a huge community street fair. And there was a bystander who spoke English and immediately went to our Kensington neighborhood group page and said, "Do we have a Bangla interpreter?" I showed up, and she was the first resident at the Asia Women's Center. It's the first Muslim women's shelter in Brooklyn. And this is important because once she was safe and away from abuse, there were leaders, there were Bangladeshi uncles who were making calls to my dad and saying, like, she has to bring her back. We can solve this. We can mediate this. And I had to have a conversation with my dad, who understood me. But there was one opponent that also ran for office among the mix who called me and said, "Bring her back." And I was like, the fact that people are okay to bring harmed people back to harm, they shouldn't be running for office. They shouldn't win. So that really gave me courage, and I think about that often as I pursue hard issues.
Tell us about 1%, the 1% for Parks campaign, and how that could help your district and New York City as a whole.
Absolutely. So this 1% for Parks campaign is about putting aside 1% of our city's budget to the parks. And this campaign has been going on for decades. So I actually, when I'm talking about how much of the budget should go towards parks, I say 2 or 3%, because we can't, that's an outdated number. And look at our parks. Not having that budget means that our bathrooms in the parks are closed because we don't have maintenance staff. And if we do have maintenance staff, it's probably for only the morning hours and not the evening hours. So that is what cutting money for parks looks like.
Finally, what haven't I asked you about Shahana Hanif, council member Shahana Hanif, and the 39th district that you want our audience to know?
So my district has the best pizza and pasta. You have to come through Pasta Louise, Smiling Pizza. I mean, in every corner of Park Slope, Kensington, you will find delicious food. And as a foodie, ensuring that our small businesses are powered and empowered, you got to keep eating local.